my goodness. Okay, hi everyone. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday.
Our background music.
A doopa doopa.
Our intro music.
I'm Kara.
I'm Chris.
And we're the Midnight Babes.
Cool. I mean, that's about accurate to how the intro music can be.
Actually, yeah. So we're gonna do 2 books again by like the same author, because we've been on this little binge of finding authors that we haven't really heard of and reading their books.
Yeah.
So I heard about TJ Payne, Intercepts.
Yep.
You recommended this one to read as like it should already be on our list to read.
Yeah.
And I was like, kind of just like, meh, okay, I'll get to it when I get to it.
Yeah.
I got to it. I really liked this book.
It was good. And like when I told you we should add it on too, it's because I know that you were finding more thrillers and whatnot. I'm like, I feel like this is going to be up your alley. It took me a while to read it because I wasn't in the mood. And I'm definitely a mood reader.
So am I.
Yes, and I read part of it and then I had to put it down for a bit because I was like, I'm not really into this right now. I'll come back. And I'm really happy that I did actually come back because I think we're both on the same page. We don't DNF.
No. Like, honestly,
We
like,
just
even
don't.
if it's bad, like, I still want to finish it because, like, how can I say it's bad if I didn't actually finish it?
Yes.
I can't truly speak to did I like this or did I not like this if I didn't see it all the way through.
Exactly.
It's like you can't say I don't like steak if you've never tried steak.
Or like a different versions. Like, that's how I would like salmon. I'm not a salmon girly.
Neither
even though
am I.
I'm from Alaska and they're like, you don't like salmon. No, I don't. I've tried so many ways that you can have salmon and it's just not my jam.
But you've tried all the ways you can have salmon and now you can say I don't like salmon.
And like I know when people they DNF it is for different reasons, different causes. And I know right now there were some of Penelope Douglas, I think like Credence or something like that.
Which is on our list.
It's on our list.
So
We're gonna read it.
I don't know what's up with that.
I think it's like the step bro, step uncle, something. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, we're kind of used to that. So it's like, you have to know what you're getting into as well.
That's why there's trigger warnings.
Feel like a lot of these, like, there's like rom-com girlies that are like, I'm a dark romance reader. And then they get into a dark romance read and they're like,
the gasp.
Y'all are reading about that? And it's like, that's literally, like, that's what dark romance is. Like, it's not just like sex.
Yeah.
It's more than that. It's like, would you kill for me?
Yeah.
Like, it's so much more than that. And like, yes, the scenes are much darker. too, but it's like,
but I know like
it's similar feelings.
Exactly. And I know, but like, that's why there are trigger warnings. And that's why I can understand if you're like, okay, maybe it's not too bad. I'm still going to try it. And then you're like, nope, that's a hard boundary for me. I understand DNFing.
That's fine.
But there's also like, okay, well, if you're not reading the trigger warnings or it's like, I couldn't stand the writing. I couldn't stand any of this. I'm like, okay, I get that. I've had books like that, but I still pushed through
to finish
them. So,
because sometimes it's worth it.
Right.
Like there are times where I'm like, I'm not loving this writing style or it's going too slow. And, I'm like, this isn't really going anywhere. And then sometimes you get to the very end of the book and you're like, oh, okay.
And, like, don't get me wrong, there have been books where I'm like with Intercepts, I wasn't in the mood, but I put it down. But I did come back to it and, like, within, I feel like a reasonable time. So, and I'm happy I did because it definitely popped off. I think for me, it was a little slow in the beginning for me. But
it starts off a little slow with some background. But
I think it was like the whole background stuff, which kind of it's a hit or miss for me on that. But I mean, like I've read a book where I definitely feel like I should have DNF'd, but I didn't, and I pushed through. And I regret buying it. So
wait, which book?
Dead Inside.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You
told me about that one.
That was my first true. What are they like? Splatterhouse. Something like I can watch that shit no problem, but reading
it does something different in the brain. It really does.
But I read the reviews. I read you know, I've watched people review it and talk about it. It's like, I knew what I was going to get into, but, like, I didn't know.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
You know
like,
what I'm saying?
you have the idea, but you don't know how far they're going to take it.
That was the first book where I was like, huh? Just like making those noises. And I'm like, man, I wish it was on KU instead, but I physically bought that book, and I hate that it's sitting on my shelf. But I'm not going to get rid of it because I fucking bought it.
Yeah, you're like, I paid
money for this.
It's my book.
So now it's there. But also, it's like, I think it's fun reading books like that because, and not for like the book itself, but it's fun when people are like, what's one of the worst books you've read? Or what's like, or if like, I want a book recommendation that's like going to make me gag. I'm like, ha, I got you.
I got you. You got me with Nick Cutter, The Troop.
Yes.
I've never gagged at a book before, and I was out loud gagging, reading on my couch.
And I loved that book too.
Multiple times.
Yes.
And I also loved it. And it kind of gave me similar vibes to Intercepts, which is that it gives me Dean Koontz vibes.
Yes. Yeah.
Like sci-fi experiments gone so wrong.
Yep.
And that is what Intercepts is.
Yeah. And also we were talking about with Intercepts, it's definitely a Stranger vibes feel, like intense.
Yes, Stranger Things vibe, because
intense wise.
So essentially, it's this government facility, and they have people down there that have been like they're putting something into the oxygen, into the air in their rooms that keeps them like essentially immobilized. Like they can only like lay down and like flail their arms and make like like they can't really talk. They're blind. They can't feel pain. Like. They're essentially like numb, right?
Yeah.
But then they like tune them and they can see where a target is and like what they're speaking about in a certain time. So it's cool in that aspect.
Use them as like antennas. Don't they use the word antennas? Like
yes.
They are antennas.
Yeah, they're going to tune the antennas, right? And like Bishop is this really strong antenna. And we hear about like Joe, he runs the facility.
Yep.
And like he's an interesting guy, right? And
divorced,
yeah, and then his wife ends up dying.
Yeah.
And he has to go get his daughter, and his daughter's never known what he's done for work, and
because it has to stay under wraps. Like they are so strict.
Government secrecy, right?
Yeah.
That it's like, meh. But then like he has to bring his daughter to live with him.
Yeah.
Riley is the daughter, and she's 16, but she's seeing this woman in like a white hospital gown in her house, and like
so she thinks like, oh, it's because my mom is dead and like blah 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 blah.
Maybe I'm seeing like a version.
Wait, is
of my
mom dead yet?
Yeah. Because that's the first time we see Riley really is when the school calls and they're like,
no, I'm thinking of a flashback.
Oh, okay.
Wait, no, because he goes to the house. To mom's house. Isn't it with stepdad? Or is that just a flashback of what happens? Am I confusing it?
I think you might be confusing it. Yeah, things go off the rails, and then Joe's ex-wife kills herself and leaves behind their 16-year-old daughter, Riley, and she sees something terrifying in Joe's house.
Okay, no, I must be
No one else sees the woman. It's put down to Riley just having lost her mother.
Gotcha. No, I know what I'm thinking of. It's a flashback, not a flashback, but it's whoever Joe was seeing on the side, the therapist.
Oh,
that's what it is. See, it's been a while since I've read this,
and
but I remember majority.
The
So
therapist is all tied into the government
yes.
too. Like everything plays back into the government, so it is very Dean Koontz-ish.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot at play with the book, and so I think it does get a little confusing, but like
especially when it pops off
my
there.
God.
I mean,
you're like, what is real, what is not real, and then. Oh, no, it's all, like, real.
It's pretty, like, we obviously don't want to, like, give away the whole book, but
yeah.
The major antenna Bishop essentially regains control of her senses and is going to make this facility and everybody that works there pay.
Yeah.
And it's fun.
Because like they're in these like little padded rooms or whatever, so like they can't hurt themselves because if they get off of this gas, like they start coming back, they can start feeling
all the pain and like everything's been like deprived for so long.
Yeah, they have like no hair.
No
because
hair.
You're shaved down. You're doing everything
you're
like
blind.
that.
You've got mitts on your hands. You can barely control your limbs.
It's because, like, they make it so, like, if they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, they do take the gas away and, like, pretty much torture them
with pain, right?
Yeah.
And,
like, you get your nerves back, and it's like, oh, gosh, so they just have to go crazy.
And it would seem that when an antenna is tuned, that they are being put through this pain.
Yes.
Like, they are being brought out of this, like, toned down version when they're in their rooms. And then they're, like, forced to watch, like, the faces and the names on the screen. And I thought that was cool, of just, like, the different photos and, like, how it was saying the name and, like, faster and faster and faster. I was like,
that's giving, like, Clockwork Orange when they were
yes! It was very well written, and I didn't have, like, any issue. Like, I was just like, I gotta keep going, right?
But I feel like you were more in the mood for that.
I was.
Like, how I was. When I was reading it, wasn't in the mood, but when I picked it back up, I was. And I feel like after a chapter or two of me picking it back up, I was like, oh,
I'm in it.
Go. And I definitely, especially with how Bishop was, like, playing on Riley, but Bishop just wanted that revenge on Joe. And come to find out, it's like these people, they're, like, missing people. Like, there's, like, been reports, and they just turn them into, like, Jane.
Doe.
Yeah, like Doe's and John
Jane
Doe's
and John.
stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that was, like, intense. And the fact that Riley, like, they told her eventually, like, what's going on. Because he could not keep it from her. Like, you're going crazy, but it's not
Javi, like, the inspector, ended up, like, getting involved, too, after Dad died. And, like, I mean, Dad told Riley to, like, never talk about it. And she even said at the end of the book, like, she goes to therapy still, but not, like, she never talks about it because she's sure that, like, the therapist is part of the government agency.
Yes.
So even at the end, when things are said and done, you're like,
but
they're not done, because there's more of these centers across the world. Yeah. And Javi, like, the guy, like, the inspector, you know, we see in the epilogue, he's going and inspecting other ones, right? And they're talking about the fallout with, like, Joe's center. And it's like, it's very interesting, and it's thought-provoking as to, like, are there things like this out there?
Bro, you know there are.
I know there are, right? We know that the military has, since the 1950s, has conducted more than 200 experiments on its U.S. citizens.
Yep.
So this would be, like, a huge jump for me, okay?
No.
And I realize some people may hear that and be like, are you crazy? But also,
like,
is it?
You think about it, like, we're only using, what, 10, not even 15% of our brains?
And that's part of this book. If we're shutting off the sensors for the sight, like, the hearing, like, the vocals.
Opening up other other things of your brain.
So I was all for it. I was like, this is fun. It's dangerous experimentations. It's, like, way across my moral lines. Yeah. But I was like, this is fun.
I'm like,
it's
know
gory.
That there's, like, something like this. Like, I think they only really came out that we have aliens and stuff because they were, like, the aliens were getting closer to us, and we weren't going to be able to be like, no it's
more.
Fake.
It's not real.
It's like, are you kidding me? The amount of times, I want to say with Jacob too, with my husband, like, he has family members that worked for the government, and the things that they've said, like, I want to say it was his grandfather was telling his dad on his deathbed that, like, some shit that he knew about in, like, military and government stuff, and, like, his dad will not talk about it.
Yeah.
Like, also, like, for respect of grandpa saying, like, you can't say shit, but, like, you should know. But it's like, government
curious.
hides a lot from
us. So when I read a book like that, though, I'm like, how far-fetched is it?
Yeah, how far-fetched, and do you know something? Yeah, like, that you're just, like, trying to get out, like, this is fiction.
TJ, what you know that we don't know, because we have questions. So I read that, and then I was like, this dude's great.
Yeah.
I love that first book, and I was like, well, like, you know, Kindle, like, will give you the start of their next book, and it prompted The Venue.
Oh, yeah.
A wedding novel. And I was like,
totally different from Intercepts.
I was like, TJ, what?
Yeah.
A wedding novel?
No, this one's good.
I do my little tap. I start reading, and I'm like, oh. Tap. Oh, an ear?
An ear?
She puts the ear in his pocket. She's like, we can't have that.
They're very much like, they're in, like,
pristine.
This facility is in, or this venue is in The Alpines.
Yes. The Alps.
The Alps. Alpines. What the
And it's very luxurious, right? Yes. So I immediately, like, did Intercepts, and I was like, I read the start of The Venue, and then I downloaded it. Now, I will say, I've not had so much fun reading a book in a long time.
Fun. I was giggling.
And I will say, like, 2023, Mean-Spirited by Nick Roberts took my horror book of the year. Okay? And I still don't know that if in that horror genre that could be topped. Right? Yeah. This is a different type of horror.
Oh, yeah.
But this is probably my favorite horror book of 2024 so far. But I don't know that this will be topped for me.
Oh, yeah, I don't know. See, for me, it was definitely Nightmare Island's up there for me right now, just with how it made me feel. But The Venue, it's fun. It was good. It's fun. It's definitely up there. That'll probably is like my second. Hold on, baby. It's probably like my second favorite because Nightmare Island got me. It got me good. But yeah,
it's interesting. So like,
why is it? I just thought about this. The Venue, it gives me obviously totally different, but it gave me that Hostel / like Get Out vibes.
It gave me the same vibes.
You pay to be able to kill.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
I know Get Out was different in like how that respect was, but I mean, like the Hostel, you know, like
you pay to torture. And that's essentially what this is. It's a wedding venue, but it's made for wedding couples that want their guests to just go at each other to the death.
It's people that disrespected them. Family members they hate. They're bullies. Like things like that.
Like so it's a scary book. It's a horror book, but the fact that I laughed most of the book was wild to me. Like, you know, they fly in all these people, you know, overseas that they don't really know.
They get the invite in an email.
Yeah.
You confirm with yes, you want to go.
Disappears.
And then disappears. There's absolutely
no confirmation. Like,
someone picks you up in a limo. You get
blindfolded.
Yeah, you get put on a plane, and then you take hour drive. You don't know what country you're in.
Where you're at, where you're going. It's all private.
You don't have to go through TSA. You don't need a passport.
Yeah, people are checking into this beautiful hotel, and they're like, hand over your phones and like electronics. And
you have to put on this wristband.
That lights up. And so like it was just a cool idea from the get-go. And then when they like explained that like everybody that has come to the wedding is necessarily not great in the couple's lives.
Yeah.
Like Caleb and Lilith are the wedding, the bride
and groom.
Yeah. So, and like Caleb invites his like childhood best friend.
Yep.
And so she's the one we hear the other point of view through.
Yeah.
And it's just so crazy when they're giving their speeches. And they're like talking about like, all of you made me who we are today. Piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy. They're like, you accepted, you know, to be here, and they got me with we're gonna do a dance off.
Oh my god, yes.
And you've got like the escort up there.
Yep.
And then you've got like the older guy like dancing, and then grandma. And grandma's doing like a combo of the moves, and they're like
back watching these two dance, and she's like, "I'm gonna do this now."
And they do the like who won, and grandma just woo, 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 and you're kind of like giggling, and you know Caleb's like, and as a prize, grandma gets to live, and I was like, what?
What is it? The people, the bar hops, the bellhops were to come out with like a little chair, places her on the chair, and walks her out. You know?
Yep, through the door,
and everyone is just staring at each other.
Kind of like this has been a weird wedding and a weird reception, weird. But like, what's going on? And then they go ahead and tell people, you can only leave this wedding is if you kill somebody else that's here. You have to take a life.
Yeah.
And like the bride and the groom are going to sit up in their suite and just watch it go down.
Up on like the balcony connected to their suite, and just like, we're just gonna see.
And then they realize that maybe their guests they invited are just a little bit like scared and want to work together and not murder each other.
Yep.
And they get frustrated that all these Americans are just working together to like solve the issue like we should. So they take like, you know, bows and arrows, and they're just like, but I mean, the detail in this book,
So
like,
good.
the walls covered in like medieval tools and
set,
weapons.
yeah.
Yes, so like
axes, maces.
people are starting to like pick them up after bows and arrows are flying. Like, obviously, we gotta have protection. People are hiding under tables.
Their wedding gift to their guest was a ninja star.
Yeah.
Legit, and they're like, what?
And they all get them at dinner, and everybody's like, what the fuck?
But they start doing that, and everyone's like, oh, they're just joking. It's
No,
fun. Killian.
They gave you a weapon for a reason.
They're like, okay, whatever. They're like, now we're getting bored. And so, like, they grab the crossbows, and they start firing, and so that's when everyone's like, oh my God, this is happening.
And everybody kind of, like, hides. Yeah, there's still, like, a collective panic, right? Even though everybody knows if you want to live, you just gotta kill somebody.
Gotta kill somebody.
And I mean, we discussed this earlier.
Yep.
I would just be like, I'm so sorry. Or I would find somebody who's already on the brink, and I would be like, I'm gonna put you out your misery.
Like, does that count?
I would
think. Does that count?
I mean, they didn't really like give rules inside of the rules. Yeah. So I would assume that would count.
See,
especially
that's
because
what I was thinking about.
The girl, why can I not think of her name?
Hey.
The girl that he invites. His childhood friend.
Oh, what's her name? Alex? No.
She is in very much the mindset of, like, the same. Like, if I were to, like, help somebody, right? Like, just finish. Oh, Amy. Because she has the same thought. Is like, if I just, like, finish somebody off, does that count? But I can't leave my parents here, and I can't leave my ex-girlfriend here, and that's a whole nother situation.
Yeah. Well, I love that whole concept, too. I love that we're getting most of this is from Amy's side, and, like, with her family and going, because her and Caleb were childhood best friends. Their parents always thought they were going to get together, but, haha, Amy's gay. She's a lesbian.
And Caleb invited Amy because he always loved her.
Yes, and so he just thought that she was just denying him. And there's this whole scene that plays out
at the end.
She captures him, like,
she captures him.
And they're talking, and he's like, I've loved you, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I'm gay. And it, like, clicked with Caleb.
He was like, oh, I messed up.
So, Mariko is your girl. He was, yes, I'm gay.
Buddy, do your research before you invite people out here.
And, like, he was saying, he's like, I couldn't find anything really on you. You're not really on socials. I couldn't keep up, blah, blah, blah. It's like he's having, like, this internal kind of
like battle.
Yeah.
And
like,
he
monologue.
sees how his wife Lilith is, and he's kind of like.
And Lilith was, like, super apparently jealous because Amy. Like,
and
obviously.
She was just as crazy.
Oh, well, and we know why. It's because she just wanted this wedding for his money.
Yeah, just for the money. But, it was just interesting. Like, I mean, it's like a battle to get out of the house, but you can't, like, jump out the window. If you take off your bracelet, your arm's gonna blow off. Like,
but they came up with a really good thing where, like, for Amy's family, they all put tournikeets. Like,
so prepared a prepped tourniquet so they could just grab it with their teeth and,
and it came in handy for Mariko.
It sure did. It was just fun reading, like, when she's, like, running barefoot and, like, the cake scene. She's, like, running barefoot.
The cake
and she's
has
like,
cyanide in the frosting.
Yeah, she's, like, covered in frosting. And she's running on blood and, like, talking about, like, stepping on, like, rib cages.
Yes.
And I'm over here, like, like, laughing. And I was like,
but I also love it
I feel a little kooky.
Well, I love it, too, because there are some people that are, like, all right, well, I gotta go, and because they're like, well, is this real or not? And then someone kills somebody, and they run towards the door, and they let them out.
They're
get
them out.
Oh, so
it's
now
real.
Now it's one of those. Are we actually sticking together, or are we going to start killing? And a few people were like, no, I'm gonna murder because I want out. But for the majority, they were just like trying to hide
stick together,
and then coming together at the end.
And the whole cake thing only happened because Lilith, the bride, was like, whoever catches my bouquet gets to go out the door. And Amy's like, this is my chance, dude.
Yeah.
And yet the cake's got cyanide in it, and the bride's parents are sitting at the table eating the cake.
Oh, my God, yeah. Well, and they were...
Oh, my gosh.
His mom was just...
a hot mess express.
Like, because they're apparently alcoholics in general, but she was just like, isn't this a great
wedding?
Like, oh, my gosh. Why is everyone leaving so soon?
Like,
what?
Where are
and
you,
can see
girlfriend?
The dad, like, just hesitating because he knows about this cake, and he's like, fuck it, like just.
Like, I mean, they said over the loudspeaker, it's got cyanide in it. If you
the
want.
DJ just going the entire time.
I was just gonna say, like, you know, before all this happens, like, the glass goes up around, like, the DJ booth and, like, around the bar, like, glass, right? And the DJ's like, party on the dance floor, and there's, like, literally, like, people being murdered, and the DJ's just like, get it. And then, like, you've got the bartender, and, like, the groom goes up to the bar, and he's like, can I get a coffee and a line of Coke? And the bartender's like, you want speed, you want crack, you want powder, like, what you want.
It's like, just 2 lines of powder, thank you.
You know, so.
Sit.
And the way it ends it was great.
Oh,
it's not how I saw it.
No.
It gave me Cabin in the Woods vibes.
Ah, yes.
Because they're kind of the hotel staff is watching all of this play out on cameras, right? And, you know, making notes like, oh, we're going to have to clean up that. We're going to have to fix that. But the way it ends was so fun with the cyanide frosting balls. And
then the guy's like, you know, because at that point, it's like involuntary what you have in your mouth. You're either going to spit it out or swallow it. And he ended up swallowing it because her hand is over his mouth. And then he's like freaking out. And I'm like, well, yeah. But then she gets into the control room and gets all the bracelets off.
Yep, she gets everybody's bracelets off. And
anyways, what I thought was like funny was that Callie was that whole scene at the very end.
Hello.
It's like where all the staff
all in the back.
All in the back, and they're like
betting.
They're not polite. Like, what are they doing? Like just being like, oh my god.
The staff.
The staff.
Well, they're
just like, that's just rude. And I'm just like, what?
I will say, like, I was like, how is he gonna tie the ending together?
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting him to do what he did.
No.
You know, like the remaining survivors of the wedding, they just kind of like party together with all the dead people, and you're like,
okay, baby,
sir, what? So yeah, it's interesting. It was fun, and it was so different from Intercepts.
Yes.
I thought the ending was fun. I liked the way they ended it, and I liked how different TJ made his books. And I know that you haven't read In My Father's Basement yet.
That's going to be my next one.
But that's also by TJ Payne and also wildly different.
Yes.
But really well written. I gave The Venue 5 stars.
Oh, I think I gave it 4.
And I gave Intercepts 4 and In My Father's Basement 4.
Oh, okay.
But, like, The Venue for me was just something so different than anything that I've ever read that I was like, this is grand for me.
It was great. It's definitely one of those, like, it's going to be messed up and a thriller and a horror, but...
But if you know that going in, which I didn't really know that going in,
no,
but, like it's pretty clear. Stop. Like, pretty clear very early.
But, no, like, I feel like it was more of, like, I won't say full comedy... But it's almost comedy horror.
It was comedy horror.
But I will say, like, I don't know if that's what TJ was going for.
I kind of feel like it was.
But it was a fun ride. It was a fun read.
It was messed up, but it was really fun.
Yeah.
So I would suggest reading that one. Of
if you don't like sci-fi as much,
The Venue would be more up your alley than Intercepts would, because Intercepts is very sci-fi-y. Venue was just gruesome.
Yes.
That it break.
Just like that. Things did break in the book. A lot of things broke in the book.
And then they fixed them with the cyanide cake.
Yes. But I did enjoy like the very end of Venue with how it's like new people came in. They burned the place to the ground. You know, like they completely wiped it because obviously they have all this money. And talking on the phone with like the next
client.
The client for the family reunion.
The yacht.
Yes, like, oh, a yacht's easier to clean up. Like talking to himself type thing.
And how like the people got out and how like the kid on the bike how like, they're supposed to like not look at the vans though.
Yes.
Like that's been imprinted in the city to like you're not supposed to look at these vans or the limos or like
and then we'll, you know, get all this cleaned up and then you guys have a couple hours and the was it the crime investigator to come in?
in.
We'll call them and get your intel or your connection at the FBI and CIA, like things like that. I was like, oh,
what? Okay, you're
okay.
like, this is wild,
Yeah.
but I thought it
so
was
much
great.
fun.
It was a fun ride.
I loved it.
I loved it. I thought TJ
I got
Payne
through
did
that
a
one
great job.
I got that one through pretty quick because I did not
It was
want
a
to put it
page
down.
turner. You were like, every page, I was like, it can't get any worse, and then it does.
Their third grade teacher, and how she was like, get the fuck out of this table.
Just kicking them out with her, talking about like the beads around her, holding up her glasses.
I was like, I have beads on my glasses sometimes.
Because we're cool,
Yeah.
obviously.
Well, especially if like I'm reading and my eyes start to strain, I'll like, when I have them on, I'll just take them off.
Yep, and then they just hang there,
And they
right?
hang, and I'm like, I feel like a grandma. And I love it.
You're like, I'm a cute grandma.
Hell yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, we have a duck making an appearance.
Quack, quack.
There were no ducks in the book, honey. I'm sorry.
Although that's what the floor looked like there.
Just a deeper red.
Fuchsia.
Anyway.
Woo!
All right.
Well, I think that was it. Did you have fun?
Yeah.
Yeah, you would never read this book right now.
Yeah, obviously.
Obviously.
I mean, in case it wasn't.
Unless I'm a horrible mother and I read it out loud.
Can you say Happy Thursday?
Happy birthday.
Happy Thursday. Oh, is that what he said? Hey, Happy Thursday.
No,
DTD.
duck attack. But definitely check out TJ Payne. Read Intercepts if you like more sci-fi.
And The Venue.
And The Venue if you want more of,
And In My Father's Basement.
which we will review because I need to read. I think I'm going to start that tonight.
It was
what I'm gonna
good.
read.
It was interesting, so. I'm just like so unfazed.
I
I'm
I'm like, this child. He wants all the attention. But we have more books coming up. We have more movies coming up.
like, we have some re-recordings to come up.
Okay, honey. So you guys have a great Thursday. Hopefully not as crazy as this one.
No.
All right. Happy Thursday.
Thank you for listening. If you'd like to see more from us, you can find us on Instagram at The Midnight Babes Podcast and on TikTok at The Midnight Babes. Stay spooky, friends.